So joining me is Danny Tack from TP Vision Philips. Thank you very much for joining us on the podcast today, Danny.
Hello, Phil.
It was great seeing you a couple of weeks ago in Amsterdam. That was your big announcement for 2023. You announced new TV models and a new P5 chip. And I know that P5 is your baby. It's what you work on all year. You're trying to make it even better. So we're now into generation 7, seventh generation of this chip. And it's a whole new processor this time around, whole new silicon. So maybe you can explain 7th gen and the features it has.
Yes, like you say, we try to improve picture quality every year. That means every year a new generation of P5. And this year we're going to do two new things in the single chip P5 processing. One of them is the new super resolution that should result in clear details and sharper edges. That actually already comes in our 8000 range with P5. So really at the bottom of our range where P5 is coming in, you have right away that feature. And then on top of that, for the OLED range, we do a new ambient intelligence called version 2. Last year, we introduced ambient intelligence 1, which was basically eye care. It was contrast optimization, and it was color temperature optimization. The first two remain in the ambient intelligence version 2. The last one, color temperature optimization last year, was based on measuring the luminance level through the light sensor of the room and adapting then the white point in the picture to that light, that color temp of your room. And in case of dark rooms, we went to like a more warm setting. In case of very bright rooms, we went to something like a cool setting. Now we can do it very accurately. We have an RGB light sensor that really can measure the right color, temperature of your room, and will adapt the white point of your picture in line with that and in a very accurate way.
Excellent. So that's a brand new feature. And again, it's maybe something that purists might not be particularly interested in, but for everybody else, it's another way of adapting the image for the room that person is sitting in. So it will try and keep the white point correct. Now, is that set towards a D65 white? So depending on the color temperature of the room, it will aim for D65?
Definitely.
Yeah. Excellent. So anything else new on the 7th gen P5 processor, Danny?
That's basically the two most important elements of.
Yeah. And P5 is across the whole range this year, and it's a single chip for 2023. So why is it a single chip? Why is there no dual chip version this year?
Well, in 2023, we are doing two new platforms throughout the range. The bottom of the range gets a new platform, and then from 8000 and up, we also do a new platform with the Pentium 1000 processor. Already doing two new platforms is quite a workload, and doing then the additional dual chip in that same year would be like, call it 3 platforms, and that's too much. Resource-wise, we can't handle that.
So again, you're using the Pentonic chip. Is it the 1000 from Mediatek that this is based on?
Yes, it is a 1000, and probably you're going to ask me how many HDMI 2.1 inputs it has, and different than maybe some announcements that have been made by Mediatek, it only has 2.
Yeah, so it's 2 full bandwidth, 48 gigabits per second, 2.1. Now for EARC, are you leaving that on those 2, or is EARC available on the other HDMIs?
At this moment, you are losing indeed one HDMI 2.1 for ERC, which is a pity. On the other hand, today there are only a handful of devices and sources that need the capabilities of full bandwidth capabilities of HDMI 2.1. And for that reason, I think still 2 will be, for most of the people, be enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, and in the future, things like moving ERC, to another HDMI or going to the full for HDMIs is definitely an element we have to look into.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like you said, for the vast majority of users, 2 full bandwidth is more than enough, because 2.0 still does plenty of features as well, and still handles 4K 60. So for most users, I believe that you think that your TVs are capable for the most general user out there who's looking for a bit of everything.
Correct.
Excellent. So no dual chip this year, but in your interview that we did a little while back in Ghent, if people haven't seen that, then it is on our YouTube channel, where I spoke in depth with Danny over at their facilities, the R&D facilities. You did mention in that video that you had been looking at QD-OLED and assessing that as a technology to possibly introduce into your product lineup. There was no announcement of QD-OLED in Amsterdam, but is it still something that you're looking at? Is there a possibility that you will bring QD-OLED to your product lineup?
Well, not this year, because the announcements we have done in February in Amsterdam are about covering the whole year. But yeah, definitely, it stays on my radar screen. We think have a marvelous screen with the Meta panel, which I can come later in this call explain a little bit more about what it does. But at this moment, it looked like the Meta panel was a better option than QD-OLED. But also QD-OLED, I know will improve in the future, and we will keep on evaluating it, and maybe next year it is enough.
Okay, so hopefully that keeps everybody happy with those questions on QD. So let's move on to 2023, your product lineup for this year. Let's look at OLED. So 2 new models that were announced in Amsterdam, 2 main models, was OLED808 and OLED+908. So let's talk about OLED808 first, and how does that differ from 807 last year, and what kind of new features does it have?
Well, as I explained already, it has this 7th Gen P5 with a new super resolution and the ambient intelligence V2. It also has now Dolby Vision 120 Hertz in there. It has the new UI, which is covering doing less screen pollution, and it's more intuitive elements in the whole menu structure on adjusting picture are more logically grouped. Those things are new. The panel itself, in the 808, the OLED panel is going to be the same panel as the 807. So no changes on that one.
So that's OLED-EX. Is it the Royal panel? Is that correct?
It is the the Royal panel that was in the 9 series.
That's right.
Is not in the 8 series. We keep the same panel as there was, and that panel is code name for that within with our supplier is Prestige.
Prestige, that's the one. So it doesn't have the heatsink, but it still has the brightness there. It's still quite a bright panel. So that's
1000.
Yeah. So I mean, 807, great TV for that level of the market. 808 is looking to add a little bit more. And then you touched on a new UI. So this is interesting, Danny, because I'm one of those reviewers who constantly said, yeah, great menu system, but we have to go through so many pages to get to what we want. And then when we're calibrating, the menus were popping up in certain ways that could pollute your measurements and so on. So you've taken all that feedback on board and you got a new UI. So maybe you can explain that for us.
Yes, so indeed, we recognize your input, but it came from various angles and from many journalists who are indeed using our TV menus for calibrating, for instance, I do see it was a burden. And now it's actually a link with Google TV. The whole UI that is provided through Google TV gave us the opportunity. Well, we could have done it earlier, but then it would have been only for 1 year, maybe to solve issues like screen pollution. Now, with coupling it with Google TV, we get this. Screen pollution, for instance, is tremendously improved. We're going like in most cases in the old menu, we were almost covering always half of the screen. Now we're going like less than 20% covering of the screen for doing most of the adjustments. And for instance, in calibrating white points, we had a menu you had to go back and forth all the time
yeah.
to it that covered the whole screen. Now it's actually, again, only a bottom strip, and so you can easily navigate left and right to adjust the level of your the white point you are doing, like the white, the red, green, or the blue. Or if you want to go to another one, another color, you can do it cursor up down, and you right away, without moving to bigger menus and swapping all kind of menus, you stay in that low screen pollution strip, and can nicely adjust the picture.
And for normal users as well, it's a nice tidied up system, isn't it? It's fewer button clicks to get to what they're looking for.
Correct. You have a straight button, although not. There's only a remote control, not a picture setting button. But there is by pushing the home button for a bit longer, 2 seconds, you right away go into a quick access menu, and right away you have your picture button there. And also the whole build up of the menus. In the past, we thought for good reasons we were splitting up like the easy, simple adjustments on brightness, color, and contrast in a very high level menu, and then one deeper, we put all the nice goodies in the advanced menu. But yeah, we were hiding things so far down menu structure for people that do want to use advanced. Now we actually we have grouped them in the 5 pillars of P5. Being contrast, color, sharpness, motion, and artifacts, and you find everything in those chapters. It's much more intuitive.
Now, you said that that's linked with Google TV, which is new for this year as well. You're replacing Android as the smart system. I'm making the assumption, because we will get asked this question, Danny, that because of that, this is not backwards compatible. So older Philips models, do you know if the new menu structure will work, or because it's with Google?
I think at this moment, I don't think it's planned, but
right.
I need to keep some reserve here. So I need to come back on that one, which I will do very soon. I need to cross check with people from our software development in Taipei.
Okay, no problem. So we will update the thread of this podcast when we hear from Danny on that one. But I know that will be a popular question that gets asked. So let's move on to the flagship OLED for 2023, which is the OLED+908. Maybe you could talk us through this model, because this does have quite a bit of new tech on board.
Yeah, I think the biggest highlight of that model is, and which we have not been talking about in this podcast, is the new third generation OLED panel from LGD called Meta panel. That's a panel that now can create much more light, peaks up to 2100 nits for a 3% window. Of course, it also has the 7th Gen P5. It has the integrated Power Wilkins sound and this 3-sided ambilight. So all of that for providing unique immersive viewing experience.
So micro lens array, some people out there might be hearing that for the first time and not understand what that technology is. So maybe you could explain what micro lens array is, Danny.
Yes, that's the key technology inside the Meta panel. And what it does, it actually, it's like, it's actually 42.2 billion small convex lenses, like the eyes of an Um,
Moth, mosquito?
well, the moth eye, it's nice that you say that, has been the name that we have in the past been
Mhm.
using when we had our 9000 series. Now we're talking about dragonfly, but moth and dragonfly is the same.
Yeah.
It's the way their eye is constructed, and through that, it helps also in having a better viewing angle. We all know that OLED has a very good or a much better viewing angle than LED, but it's still not perfect. With this Dragonfly convex lenses, we are able to improve the viewing angle with 60%. But that micro lens is also helping in the luminance improvement, 70% luminance improvement we're talking about. So going from 1200 net peak now to 2100 net peak. And that is because the annual reflection in the panel is now much lower. So all the light, or most of the light produced in the panel is now getting out. In before micro lens, a lot of light was bouncing back and forth and stayed within the panel. Now it all comes out, and it gives us an increase of 70%. The last thing I would like to say about this Meta panel is that it also comes with a new polarizer. The polarizer is called Vanta polarizer. The reflection of that, the specular reflection, is also 70% down. So it's far less of a mirror than before, and it keeps the black level perfect. Normally, when you use your reflection, it might affect the black level appearance, but all that should give a good black appearance. And so we do the combination of less reflection and still perfect black.
I've got to say, in the side-by-side demo that we saw at Amsterdam, there was a real difference there. It's like a black hole compared to 907 that was sitting next to it without the polarizer. And again, that just rejects ambient light. So if people are using it in a brighter room, it's not going to wash out the black levels. Blacks still look nice, inky black. And another really impressive thing was standing maybe 5 or 6 feet away from the panel and waving your hand. When there was no picture on the screen, you couldn't see anything on the new panel with that.
Right.
So yeah, that looks really good. And of course, it still has a glossy look though to the image, doesn't it? It's not a matte finish or anything like that. The polarizer is doing the light rejection. It's not a coating that's on the screen, is it?
It still gives that exquisite look, that designish look, but without the disadvantages of seeing yourself in the picture, being able to maximally enjoy what is on the picture.
Yeah. And is there any other processing that's going on in there, Danny? Because we've got MLA and you have the polarizer, but is there anything else that's adding a brightness boost inside the panel?
No, it's basically the MLA is the main technology that actually is much more efficient, let's say. And therefore also, but together with that, well, indeed, one thing is that the external heatsink that was already in the Royal panel to make sure we do not have extra burn-in now has been adapted because we are going quite up in peak light from 2100 nits, and you need to cater with that for that. You don't want to go to those bright pictures and having now again more the danger on burning. So yes, the heatsink has been slightly adapted to cater for that.
And again, your USP on all Philips TVs is Ambilight. It's 3-sided on the 908. Why have you gone from 4-sided back to 3-sided with the 908 this year?
Actually, we have already last year, we went back to all TVs became 3-sided again. Because that bottom strip many times, people, half of the people still are putting it on a stand, are not hanging it. And then the stand, whether it's central neck, and especially whether it is central neck, is covering a big portion of your bottom bar, and you do not get the maximum performance out there. That's why we went for now a straight solution, full solution of only 3 sides all over the range.
Yeah. Again, Ambilight, absolutely brilliant. If you've never seen an Ambilight TV, go see one, because it's a very interesting technology. It's been around for a number of years on Philips TVs, but it's improved yet again for this year, Danny, as well, with the you can get down to the per LED level now. We saw that last year, and again, it's improved further this year.
The resolution is 3 times better than before. That is because now every individual LED has a driver behind, whereas before we had only one driver per three LEDs. And so the accuracy, the resolution in the next generation Ambilight is 3 times better.
And I just want to clarify a couple of points before we move on and wrap up. 908, you said 2100 nits on a 3% window, but that's in your crystal clear, which is the renamed Vivid mode. Is that correct?
Yes.
So do you have any figures for D65 settings with that?
At this moment, not, but knowing that the native white point of the OLED panel is pretty close to what we're using in crystal clear, and therefore maximize the amount of peak that the panel can produce, and D65 a bit off from there. I would guess you're probably losing like 25-30% of that peak.
Yeah. And of course, as soon as we get the TVs in, which will be a little bit later in the year, we will measure that and we'll have a look at that as well. Right. So just to wrap up, we don't tend to talk about LED, LCD TVs. OLED seems to be the real push with AVForums members. But of course, the wider market out there, Danny, is again, a very important one for Philips and TP Vision. You brought in the One a few years ago, which was basically the One TV. If somebody was looking for an affordable solution with a lot of nice features on there and so on, but couldn't quite stretch to the luxury models, that was the screen that you said as a company we should be recommending to people who ask. So there's a new line that you've introduced this year called Extra. So maybe you could explain Extra to us, because it sits between the One and the luxury models. So maybe you can explain that a little bit.
Yes, well, it's a mini LED range, which sits actually on top of the One range. It gives you some extras over the One. And as I mentioned, as I say, it's a mini LED, means that the blacks and the brights in that, because of the mini LED, because of the segmented backlight, can be you can have really deep dark, deep blacks and bright brights, which you cannot do with the One. The One is or HLED or direct LED and only has one zone. And also extra, the mini LED, the color gamut of that range is slightly higher than what we use in the One range. It's 98% DCI-P3 versus 90 in the One. So also that. So better blacks, better brights, better color. And actually the Extra is we're positioning it above the One, below the OLED, and it is not the intention with our new mini LED range to compete with the QLEDs from the competition. That's the whole idea behind it. It's more than one extra over the One, but not a competitor to the high-end mini LED TVs from.
So yeah, so you're getting mini LED, you're getting that zoned backlight, local dimming. You also get P5 on there and Ambilight as well.
Yeah, the 3-sided Ambilight, just like all the other models. P5, 7th generation P5. So all the nice goodies. We have it in 2 flavors, 2 mini LED ranges. One with Baron Wilkins integrated sound, and one with a normal 2.0 40 watts sound system. So you have there's a lot of diversity in that range.
Excellent. I do think it's one of the things that Philips TP Vision does very well, and that's giving the consumer choice. Even the luxury models, with your P5 processing and so on. You give us the opportunity to have incredibly accurate images to the standards if that's what we're looking for. But at the same time, you also give people a choice to have something that moves a little bit away from reference, but not over the top and adding your processing power. So it's always something I have appreciated with your approach to TVs, Danny. So thank you very much for your time today, going through the 2023 models. Really looking forward to seeing them, and I'm looking forward to seeing mini LED as well. I think I'd like to have a look at them this year and see what you're doing with that technology, because I think it is an area of the market that maybe sometimes gets overlooked, and maybe that's a little bit unfair to overlook that area of the market. So thank you very much for your time, Danny, and we'll speak to you again soon.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity, Phil, and maybe next year we do the same thing again.